Well, friend, it was bound to happen. Right before we left for Montana, I filmed an entire video of Josh and I finishing this project, and my mic was not plugged in. I normally check it every time, but I guess I forgot to check it. So what I'm gonna do is take you back to a couple days before we left for Montana, where we buttoned up this project, because I still wanna show you how and what we did to finish it and what we plan to do with this bonus area. So you and I started this trim project over 2 years ago. We got it basically done in the majority of our living spaces, except for this door and this door, because we had to wait for these doors to be made before we could actually put the trim around them. When we bought this house, there was no door on this closet. It was just a curtain. And so we wanted all the doors to match. That door still doesn't match, but all the rest of the doors in the house now match. And we got a door here, and Josh got the trim done here, and he got the trim done here. So I'm gonna bring you back. I'm gonna show you the process of us getting all of this trim work done and kind of going over what our next steps are for the upstairs. Friend, buckle up. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, and we are able to get it all done, which feels absolutely fantastic. So the first room I'm starting in is one of what is going to be Josh's office. So we started this project, like I said, over 2 years ago. And the reason we replaced all the trim in this house was because when we bought the house, there was about 6 different types of trim in the house throughout the house. And we thought it would be nice to have one cohesive type of trim. And when Josh and I purchased our first home, we replaced all the trim and added wainscoting, and we just really have fallen in love with trim and trim work. And so we knew that when we bought this home, it was something we wanted to prioritize, was to kind of get a cohesive look throughout the house. And just like a lot of home renovation projects, they take time. And this one just happened to take a long time. But the beauty of this was that this is kind of a bonus area. And for the last 2 years, we haven't needed this space. We've been totally functioning fine in the rest of our house. But as our family grows, we need this space. So if you're new, this room was not finished totally. There was carpet and trim in here, but for some reason the walls weren't textured. So in this room, we actually had to texture the walls, and then we removed all the trim, and then we put up this trim. So once Josh puts the trim work in, this is how it's been the last time we did this in our first home. I come through and I fill in all the nail holes, and I eventually, once they dry, I sand them, and then I use this putty to fill in the rest of it. I do not pronounce this product properly, and so you all know what I mean. I use this and I fill in the gaps between the walls and the windows, and it just gives it a nice finished look. This is not my favorite thing to do. I don't enjoy finishing trim work like this, but I do enjoy the fact that huge progress is being made, and we're going to have some more space for our family. So this room that I'm working in right now is actually going to end up being Josh's office. Josh currently, his office is in the laundry room, and it's not the most practical when you're trying to think to have the washer and dryer going. We do a lot of laundry around here, so almost all the time there's laundry going, and so it's just time for him to have his own space. He's also a drummer, and you might have seen his drum kit when we were up here working on another day. And in this room, it's the bigger of the 2 rooms that are up in this bonus space. So he'll be able to have his drum kit up here, and he'll be able to drum, and we'll be able to do some soundproofing and all that stuff. So it'll be really, really nice. So what I did to prepare all of the trim before we got started is I'm telling you just a little bit about what this room is going to be used for. Is I went through and I actually dusted all the trim because Josh was cutting all the trim up here. I'm actually going to show you how he makes this top bead, because he makes the final ones for the downstairs in the kitchen. And so I'm able to show you how he makes that top board, because he kind of makes like a custom trim piece for that. I don't know. I'm sure there's like a proper name. Header. It's a header above the windows and the doors. And then, so what I did when I started, before I even got started puttying and doing all that type of stuff is I took a damp rag and I actually wiped all the trim down just to get some of the dust down, because he was doing all of the cutting up here. It was extremely dusty. So I do take my time and really try to make this look nice and neat. It really does pay off in the end if you go slow and make it look neat. I think I've told this story before, but when Josh and I were remodeling our first house, we were newly married. We bought our house like a month or two before we got married, and we didn't gut it. We didn't move any walls or anything like that, but literally every piece of finish in the house was replaced. So like flooring and trim and countertops and doorknobs and hinges and all those types of things we changed. And so we learned a lot of how to work together in that first. It took us 4.5 years to remodel that home because we did most of it ourselves. And we learned a lot about how to work together. And one thing that has always stuck with me, because I would sometimes get frustrated that it would take a long time, or, a project would take longer than maybe I was hoping for because we were living in the construction for a long time, is I would be like, Josh, it's good enough. It's good enough. No one's going to notice. No one's going to notice. And he said, but I'll notice. And I live here every day. And that really stuck with me that, wow, yes, it's worth taking a little bit of extra time and having it look really nice so that when you're living in it, you can enjoy it. So this putty work, definitely around the top header piece, because it's a little bit intricate at the top, is a little bit fiddly. And I want to do my best job as I can, because I know Josh spent a lot of time and effort making it look really nice and precise, that I want to honor that and try to do my best work as well. So I'm just working my way throughout the room. After I dusted the entire room, then I go back and I filled in the nail holes, and then I go in with the caulking and I do that because I like to do this part better than filling in the nail holes. And so I kind of try to get the part I don't enjoy out of the way first. So I like to wear gloves when I do this because I hold a damp paper towel in one hand and I fill in with the putty with one hand, and then I go back with my finger. And I have just found that it kind of saves my fingers if I wear gloves. I do end up going through a few sets of gloves, but it's worth it in the end. So here is this room completely done now with the nail holes, and the trim is all ready to go for paint once it dries and I go back and sand it. So what I want to do now is get all of this stuff out of the room. This is Josh's air compressor and just some other random construction bits and odds and ends in here that don't need to be in here anymore, because we are now done with this room, other than I'm going to come back and have to sand the nail holes. But when I do the putty for the nail holes, I try really hard not to do too much excess. When I first started doing this, I would go very heavy-handed, and then I would just be like, oh, I'm going to come back and sand it. Well, I have learned that it's easier to take time to remove the excess when filling in the nail holes and then just have to do a light sanding. So this room is now basically done with that part. So here is what the stairs look like. This is just some of the construction stuff we bought when we first started this project 2 years ago. Josh is eventually going to replace all of the, what are those called? What are these called? Outlets. Because the outlets in the house are beige, and so we're replacing them with white ones. So here you can see a beige outlet right there. This is the before of what, the trim, or around the doors before there's any trim. And the door wasn't sitting flush with the floor. So I'm just telling you that this door is more complicated because Josh is going to have to mess around with that. And there's a lot of things he has to work around with the trim here. And so, sometimes it seems like super straightforward, but then, there might be like an outlet or a switch or something, or a wall that can get in the way that makes trim work a little bit trickier. So one of the reasons we took so long to finish this upstairs is we didn't really have a need for this space. We were totally content in our, downstairs living area. But we're kind of realizing now that it'll be really nice to have 2 dedicated home offices. My office is in the kitchen, and sometimes, like right now, when I need a quiet space, it'll just be really nice to be able to go up there and shut the door and have a quiet space, and the rest of my family can go about their lives uninterrupted with me needing a quiet space. So I've now worked my way out of what will be Josh's office, and I'm working my way into the hallway. I'm kind of going section by section so that I can finish an area. I could go and putty all the nail holes in the hole upstairs and then go back, but I kind of enjoyed finishing sections, like basically getting it all done and then moving to the next section and kind of switching back and forth between tasks. And it felt like I was accomplishing more that way. Probably takes the exact same amount of time in the end, but it kept it a little bit more interesting for me, and it was a little less kind of repetitive. Now, projects like this are nice in the fact that I can just, put some earbuds in and listen to like an audiobook or a podcast or something and just focus. I do enjoy listening to things and listening to people talk and reading or listening to stories and stuff like that. So one benefit of a project like this is it gave me a lot of time to do that. And then another reason why we didn't finish this space is Josh was building the website, and he's the one that knows how to do the trim work. I don't know how to do that. So, he was working on that. And I don't remember, there was just a bunch of life things happened that this just, wasn't a big priority. And another reason it didn't happen is we could not decide what type of flooring to put up here. We went back and forth so many times what type of flooring, carpet versus a hard surface flooring. Eventually, whenever we do our kitchen, we don't have any plans to do that anytime soon, but whenever we do, we would like to put a hardwood floor throughout our downstairs. And so if we were going to put hardwood upstairs or a hard surface, we would want to match it with whatever we decide in the future for the rest of the house so that, it's one cohesive flooring. Or carpet. Carpet, the nice thing about carpet is it's quieter, it's cozier, and the downside though is it's harder to keep clean. And so we just couldn't decide. And we would think we would decide, and then we'd be like, no, I don't know. And so we eventually did decide that we're going to go with carpet because they're going to be offices and it will just keep the noise down. Josh is a drummer. It'll help keep the noise down. And we've never bought carpet before because we've always replaced. Oh, no, that's not true. We replaced the carpet in our last house. I forgot about that. But it was right before we moved because when we bought the house, the carpet was shot. And before we sold the house, it needed new carpet. So I forgot we bought that because we didn't ever live with the new carpet. But we decided on carpet. And actually yesterday we went out and picked out the carpet. So that's really, really exciting. So you might have just seen me go through and clean out a bathroom up there. So I removed the shower curtain because that was a shower curtain that was left from the previous owner. So today, actually, when I'm done with this, I'm going to be heading to the store and I'm going to buy a replacement shower curtain and a couple hand towels and get a couple things for upstairs. Currently, the painters have this upstairs area completely taped off and ready to go, and they are going to be painting the trim in very, very shortly. But here you can see Josh, he's building this header. Now, the reason we decided not to paint this trim is we wanted it sprayed, and when we redid the trim in our first house, I painted the whole thing. I painted the ceilings, the walls, the trim, the doors, the wainscoting that we put in. And I'm not a professional painter. And it looked really, really good, but you could see the paint strokes. And so we figured with this trim work, we would get some help and let them go ahead and spray it and just make it look really professional and get it done a whole lot quicker than I could get it done. It took me 2 weeks. I took 2 weeks off work when we did the trim in our first house to paint the ceilings, the walls, the trim, the doors. And I just don't have 2 weeks to paint. So we did want to do the trim work ourselves because I know Josh is so good at it and he can make it look super, super beautiful. But we are going to get some help when it comes to the trim work. In current time, the trim has already been painted, and I'm going to show you some of the trim work and the doors painted. So now you have seen what we did and what it took for us to get upstairs done. And I've got a question for you, because I did talk to you about this, but my mic was not on. Right here, this is a blank wall, and many of you guys have pointed that out to me, and I am very aware that this is a big blank wall. And I have kind of been going back and forth what I want to do with this wall, and I would like your input. Josh and I are kind of not really on the same page, so I would love to hear your thoughts. One idea is to put a big buffet, a big piece of furniture that's probably about counter height, that goes along the majority of this wall with either a big piece of artwork or a big mirror on the top, and have there be storage space in here where I can store my colored napkins that are cloth for parties, my different serving dishes, different cocktail glasses, my silverware for when I have parties, my extra table decor things that I'm slowly starting to collect that I enjoy when I have dinner parties and I can set a beautiful table. The other thought is, because our house is not open concept, is to put 2 like big chairs or maybe a couch or something here with a table so that we can have some seating area in the kitchen that's comfortable, so that we can have it next to the table and the kitchen. So what do you think? Should I have it be a storage space or a kind of cozy, comfortable space? These steps also need to be painted. Then we can put all the hardware on the doors. This is all hardware that we already bought 2 years ago. It's the doorknobs and the hinges and the outlets and all that stuff. So all of that we bought that a long time ago. We needed the trim to be done, then we needed the paint to be done, and then we need the flooring to go in. So Josh actually got this area really cleaned after the project. So he was, cutting all of the trim in here. Very, very dusty, messy job. He got all that cleaned and all his tools put away, which is fantastic. We did decide to go with carpet up here because this is going to be a family space. We wanted it to be a little bit more cozy, a little bit more quiet. It's going to be a place for just lots of family fun. And so we figured carpet was probably the best option. This is also going to be a family TV room and things like that. And I do want to, if I can find it, I want to find a big sofa that has a sleeper in it. So when we have guests, this whole area up here can kind of be turned into a guest suite, because there is a door at the top of the stairs. There is the bathroom up here. And so because we don't have like a guest room per se, because we want these 2 rooms to be my office and that room over there to be Josh's office, so that I can get my office out of the kitchen and he can get his office out of the laundry room, which has worked really well for us up to this point, but we are outgrowing those spaces and we are excited to have dedicated office space. But we also do have guests that stay here on a pretty regular basis. So it'll be really nice to have a guest suite that we can kind of close off and they can enjoy up here and have some privacy, because we have laptops. So if, we have guests here and I need to do some work, I can just do it downstairs, no problem at all. This is just some furniture we had at our last house. We've got a TV stand there, a couch, which we will use up here. So friends, some really exciting updates here. The painters have started painting the trim and the doors. So this door is now painted, and I'm going to show you upstairs. It's looking so fantastic. It's amazing. Nothing's happened here other than prep work, I don't think. The white part of these stairs are going to be painted white, but here you can already see this door and this bit of trim has been painted, and it looks so much better. I just love to see it kind of all come together like this. And then up here, this trim piece has been painted, and I think they got all the trim done, actually, along with some doors. Now what's gonna be fixed next is this drywall. The drywall guy actually just got here. Needs to be replaced. There was a mini split here, and so there's no texture on that drywall, so that needs to be fixed. And then we're gonna replace the light fixtures, so the drywall on the ceiling needs to be fixed. So it is looking so much better already. I am so excited to see the white on the trim and on the doors. I'm going this afternoon actually to go pick up some things for the bathroom. I'm gonna turn a light on in here. I need to get a new shower curtain and towels and things like that for this room because we don't have any sort of towels or anything for this room. So it's looking great. Even with no paint on the walls, I like the way that the trim is looking. And then one more room down here. When Josh and I painted the doors in our first house, we did this where we corrugated the doors, and we did it in a really, really tiny room, and it was very stressful because we were worried the doors were gonna fall over on us. All right, so that's what it's looking like before the color goes on the walls. Really excited. So that is the trim project, which I cannot believe. I am so grateful. After over 2 years, it is now buttoned up and complete. And the big thing now is going to be to get it painted and get the flooring installed, which I am so grateful for. We have had plenty of space in our home, but it'll be nice to be able to have just a little bit more space for our family.